Hello everybody, I'm Andy Lacombe and welcome to another week of the Frenzy Extra. Coming to you now from Sunsplashed Fitton Field, where this week the Holy Cross Football Crusaders are getting set to host the Brown Bears. It is our Charter TV3 game of the week, and for Holy Cross they're looking to win 2 in a row. More on the game with Coach in just a little bit, but first let's recap what was a big win for the Doherty Highlanders on Charter TV3 over St. Peter Marian this past weekend. For Doherty, the win was huge. The guys are excited about it, but they're also not looking past their next opponent.
4-0 now. What does it do for the confidence level of the team? You get a rivalry win and you continue on this undefeated season.
It's a real confidence booster, but we just got to take it one game at a time. Last year they beat us at the end of our season, so it was really good for us. It was a really good win for us.
Last year we didn't really do too well. We lost to them twice. So we all had a really big chip on our shoulder. We wanted to make sure that we came out here and we dominated from the beginning.
The crowd's going crazy. The sideline's insane. It's always close games, so you can't really. There's no other feeling like it. The adrenaline is ridiculous.
Offensively, score on special teams, and defensively, pitch a shutout. How special is that, and what does that say about this team across the board?
It shows that our team is really intense, that we work really hard, that we hit really hard, and that we execute without fail.
That's what we've been working on all year, so we came out here and executed.
You got North coming up this week. It's an inter-high game. What are the keys to beating them?
They get better and better every year, so we want to make sure that we don't let up on them.
They run a lot, so you can't really count them out. Just you got to win them. City game, you got to win.
Well, the Northbridge Rams, the greatest show on turf, they're on a mission this season, and it's their defense really leading the way. The Rams haven't allowed a point yet through 4 weeks of football. So for this class, this senior class, they've been playing together since sophomores. Mike Quinn telling us it's a special group and they're looking to finish strong.
You know, I love playing with these guys, and our senior class is very talented, and we've been through hell and back, and we've been kicking teams to the ground, and we've also been kicked to the ground for the past 2 years in the state championship. But you know, it's our last year together, and we got one goal, and that's just to get back to Gillette.
A Northbridge alum is at the helm of Blackstone Valley Tech. Coach Arch has to be happy with how his Fighting Beavers are playing, winners of 3 straight after an opening week loss. Blackstone Valley Tech is a program. They are built on now a tradition of winning.
It's tough that first game, coming out with a loss, but after that, Coach really drilled it into us that we needed to turn it around, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. Worcester Tech was some really good competition. They pretty much shut down our run game, but we just threw it over the top. We feel really versatile, and I feel like we're doing a really good job.
Our offensive line is not the biggest, and we kind of saw that in the first half against Maynard, so we kind of stepped that up and stepped the intensity up, and we've definitely seen that coming out in the past 2-3 games. Coach definitely has drilled that into our heads that no matter who we lose or who we gain, we just got to keep fighting to get that playoff spot every year. That's what Coach says. We got to win, just keep winning, and it'll eventually pay off in the long run.
After that first loss, I mean, we haven't had that in a long time in the beginning of the season, so he told us we needed to clean everything up, and we did. We've been working hard during the week, working hard at practice, and we're turning it around. Train keeps rolling. No matter who we lose, there's always someone to take their spot. There's always competition at practice for people's spots, so I feel like that really keeps us going. That really keeps everybody on top of their game.
Key games we'll be watching on the Friday Night Football Frenzy this week. Of course, Wachusett and Shepherd Hill, plus the Battle of Shrewsbury, St. John's and Shrewsbury. Marlboro and Neshoba, always a hard-fought game. And 2 games out of the Swickle, Grafton and Auburn, and Millbury taking on Leicester. Time for a quick break. Jim Wilson and Kevin Shea are in the studio. They're getting ready to break down some of the key matchups this week.
Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Shea here, joined with Jim Wilson, the high school sports editor for the Telegram and Gazette and Home Team Magazine. And really another big week in the books, but what we mean right now is what it means is we're at the midway point of the season. We got an 8-game regular season. We've played 4 games and things shaking out. One of the things that stands out to me is all the new quarterbacks we saw last week. We'll start with Fitchburg. Sal Figueroa getting the start for Fitchburg. Fitchburg beat Shrewsbury in large part to the play of Figueroa. He gives that offense a completely different dynamic. He's a running quarterback. He's a run-first guy, but he's a scat back. He's 140, like a water bug quickness. You have a 287-pound fullback in Isis. You have, with Marrero, you have a 190, 195-pound tailback who's strong, 5'10". So now you really almost have Thunder Lightning. They're tough to defend.
Right. Their defense has always done a good job keeping games, not close. So if they have that kind of explosive point on offense, Like back, if you go back to years, go to Jeremy Kimber and Darius Flowers. Those guys, when they're under center, they can make plays happen. I'm curious if they have that same type of player now.
And that's the feeling up there is, okay, we did this with Flowers a year ago when we switched quarterbacks. He got the ball rolling. He got us rolling. Now they think maybe the same thing's going to happen with Figueroa, who's got him rolling now through 2 games.
He put points in the board, which has been tough for Fitchburg to do all season. So they have that. That's got to be a plus for them.
Wachusett, Dan Turgeon, they have a strange story about how Dan Turgeon came into the game as the quarterback for Wachusett. Their number 1 quarterback goes to the doctor on Friday, expected to play. Doctor says, no, you can't play. So the number 2 quarterback starts. He gets hurt in the first series. The number 3 and 4 quarterbacks are freshmen. So Mike Dobzinski says, I can't put a freshman in there. I got Dan Turgeon. He's a junior running back. In 8th grade, he was a quarterback. He hasn't taken a snap since 8th grade. Puts him in under center. Turgeon was awesome. They lose that game by 1 point. He was phenomenal in driving Wachusett, ball control. At one point in the third quarter, they had 3 third downs in a row. They ran the same play every time. They ran a bootleg every time. Every time Turgeon kept it, and he got a first down against that Leominster defense. You know, they're so fast, so big, so good.
Right. And your key word there was ball control and run the ball, which is when you talk about a quarterback at Wachusett, Dobzinski, that's heaven. That's what he needs. So that's perfect for him. Don't make any mistakes. Keep the manage the clock. Try to control the ball. He's not being asked to go out there and throw 15, 20 times a game and throw for 400 yards. They just want to get make the big pass when it's key. Like a 3rd and long, hit somebody on a slant pattern for a good gain. But really, I mean, if he can tuck the ball and run, that's another weapon he has in the backfield.
And just like your point there about just even ball security, first 2 snaps he fumbles, and then to have the poise to collect yourself, and then the rest of the way he was great. Whether he was under center, and they even put him in the shotgun a couple times. As an you haven't done that since 8th grade. People take it for granted, that center quarterback exchange. It's not as easy as it looks. It's not as routine as it looks. My hat goes off to Dan Turgeon.
Center butts are taller off the ground in 8th grade.
That's true, and a little bigger. Seamus Leary at St. Peter Marion. He's out. He hurts his knee, so he's done for the year. Now this is a completely different team.
Yeah.
So now they bring in Danny Mom. He's a sophomore. He's really talented, got a great arm, but you don't have the leadership. You don't have the poise. You don't have the command of the offense. You don't have the guy who reads defenses, who's that dual threat to run and throw, who possibly has the strongest arm in Central Mass, and Seamus Leary. I know it's frustrating for Leary, heartbreaking for his teammates and for him and his family as well, because he worked so hard to get back, to rehab that, and get back to where he could lead this team, and they were really expecting a big run this season.
And they could, you're right. I mean, he worked so hard. I talked to him over the summer. They were out, 4th of July, doing passing camps and things like that, trying to get a rhythm with the receivers. So I hate to see that happen to him, because I know how hard he worked and what he did between all the different places he went to get better.
Yeah.
But having Mom, like you said, Mom's going to be a good quarterback. I don't know about right now, especially with the schedule they play. Right now, they're on the outside looking in the playoffs and the power rankings. And by the way, your first game, go up and try to beat Doherty.
Right.
It's a tough task. I mean, Doherty saw that sophomore quarterback, next big thing, under center. They just had that red light going. They were ready to just charge in.
Yeah, you look at that Doherty defensive line and the linebackers and Steve Bacalio, that attacking style defense, you're right. They're looking at that and saying, hey, we got blood in the water, a couple sharks, and boom, they're sending the house. So really tough to make your debut as a sophomore against that defense. I'm curious
to see what they do going forward, because they have a tough schedule. And like I said, they're chasing points now. So, but at least they know going forward, Mom's the guy to try to lead them there. They get Baldino back this week, from what I understand, so I think that will be a big asset to him. He's going to be a workhorse for him, keep the pressure off Mom. I think St. Peter Marion should be fine, but it might take a couple series to get in a rhythm.
Ryan Carey, another running back for him, carried the load last week. He was awesome. I thought he was a phenomenal running back, and you can't overstate what he did and how he kept him in that game, because he ran so hard. I'm sure by the end of that night, when he went to try to brush his teeth, it hurt to just lift his arms up like this, because he literally and figuratively was shouldering the load on offense and just trying to run through tacklers, 3 and 4 tacklers. So he showed me a lot in that game. And Doherty, too. It's a great win for Doherty to continue and to go undefeated and to do it on special teams, offense and defense.
Yeah, they need Vassar to run for 200 yards. Like you said, they got a big special teams pickup, by Ricky Webster. That was a huge game for them, especially early, sort of set the tone, gave them some breathing room. They weren't in a dogfight till the third quarter. They got that, and they were able to really, control the game and get the points when they needed to.
We're going to go into some of the power rankings. We're going to go into some of the scenarios now, because we're at the midway point of this season. But one of the biggest storylines for you and I talking, Shepherd Hill, Division 4, arguably the best team in Division 4. They're not going to make the playoffs.
No, I don't.
And the way that we look at it, you and I both, Shepherd Hill doesn't make the playoffs, and they're the best team.
Right.
in Division 4. So they're penalized for playing up. They opened the season playing St. John's,
number one
at the time. Leominster, number one at the time.
St. Leominster was number
Leominster,
one.
number one at the time. St. John's, number two. So they opened up with St. John's, Leominster. Then they played
Shrewsbury, which was a ranked team at some point, and they only lost to them by a point.
And then they played Neshoba and lose last
4.
week. So it's all Division 2 teams, all playing up. Number 1 team, number 2 team, number 4 team, and now Shrewsbury's in the top 10. And they're not going to make the playoffs. So the moral of the story is don't play up. Don't play a challenging schedule, which I hate. Absolutely hate, because as a Central Mass football fan, I want to see Shepherd Hill and Leominster. I want to see Shepherd Hill and St. John's. I want to see the best teams play each other. But in this scenario, why are you going to do it? Auburn always played up. They always played Shrewsbury, always played teams ahead of them. Where is the incentive to do that?
We're still talking about those that never was game between Auburn and Neshoba from a couple of years ago. The two perfect teams and everything. You want to see them go at it. So I think having that, I'd hate to see this, lead to coaches just why bother going out when they get punished for it.
Right.
Because like Shepherd Hill, I think they have three power ranking points that puts them down at the bottom of Division 4. They're chasing points. So I don't know if I'm not great at math, which is why I'm mushing my way through TV. But it's hard for them, especially the schedule they have left, to pick up those points. So do they look at? I mean, right now they wanted to play up, and I give them tons of credit for doing that. I see it all the time in hockey, teams like that. I wish they played better teams, because I'd rather go into the playoffs 12-8 and tested than 18-2 with a bunch of cream puffs.
Right.
I'll use that.
Rossi.
Exactly.
You know what these are?
So I think having that. I mean, at Shepherd Hill, when they moved from the Squickle to the Midwatch, that was enough of a bump in their schedule to begin with, because they're playing tougher teams like Leominster and Wachusett, on a weekly basis, because they had to, because they're league games now.
Right.
But then to go out and find for St. John's, rather, they didn't dodge anybody. And I give them a lot of credit for that. And I hate to see the fact that they're punished for it. By now they're not, going to play non-playoff games at the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like the whole message that it sends. And you want, as a sports fan and as a Central Mass football fan, I want to see the best teams, the top teams, playing each other. And there's just no incentive to do that now. The way I know Chris Lindstrom, it's not going to change his way of thinking. He's still going to want to play the top teams in the area, and he's going to want to challenge his kids. And I love that. I love that attitude. We'll look at a couple games coming up this week, and then we'll get quickly into the power rankings. We'll go through these quickly. But Marlboro-Neshoba is going to be a really good game. Really good game.
Yeah, we've talked about the Neshoba the last couple of weeks, and I was looking at that. I get a lot of crap this week because you can't pick against a team, because if you pick against them, they hate you. You hate Neshoba. What's up? I just talked them up last week with big time on this, because I think they're a great team. But I'm looking at the Shepherd Hill game, thinking there's no way that Lindstrom and Dugan and that coaching staff will let that team go 0-4. Neshoba handled them. I mean, it's been a while since they really had no problem. They matched up well on their lines. They didn't let the double wing offense get bother them, because they're big enough to prevent those kind of runs. So I think Neshoba had a really good win last week, and they proved. I mean, I think I have them third in my poll. I think they're a fantastic team. Yes. I just thought Shepherd Hill had that spark. I thought too much of a sports writer as it did as analyzing the football game. But I think Marlboro's another tough test for them. Marlboro's defense, they're sort of quietly down there. I know Mahoney likes to talk about being tucked in that 495 barricade, sort of away from people, sort of under the radar. They have one of the best defenses in Central Mass, if not the state. I think Capadona is a great player. He's a game breaker for them. They have their hands full. I think that's probably the best game of the week.
And they're similar teams. Physically, they're similar teams, similar styles in terms of speed. They have some size, but they're not monsters across the board. Grafton at Auburn is an interesting game to me. Auburn is, I think, they're 0-for, but this is a better team than their record would indicate. And with that coaching staff, they're going to come loaded for bear. Grafton trying to come back after a tough loss, and again, they're going to try to get things going. Auburn has the one victory this season, but this is another one that I like this matchup. This is one I'd love to go watch.
This is a good pride game, sort of, like you said, we're halfway through the season. This is a set the tone week. I think Auburn knows they need, if they make the playoffs, they need some help, and they need to right the ship fast. A win over Grafton with a great, good running back in O'Brien. I think that's, Millen Fowler was there, one of the best secondary guys around. I think having that, win over them really just gives them a lot more confidence. They start playing like the Auburn team as they were before. But Grafton's tough. That's a lot of tough losses. They could easily be 4-0.
battle for Shrewsbury. St. John's and Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury coming off that tough loss to Fitchburg a week ago. They made great adjustments because in the first half of that game, Fitchburg controlled the clock, controlled the line of scrimmage. Then they made some adjustments at halftime, and Shrewsbury came out, and they were a field goal away from winning that. They had a shot to win it, missed a field goal right at the end. This one's a good matchup, too. Yeah. St. John's coming over that huge win over Xavier, one of the top teams in the state of Connecticut.
Exactly. I think having that win over, St. John's, we talked about them a couple weeks ago, just saying they don't have that dynamic playmaker, really, that they have been known for in the past. I think their defense is solid, but I think they're looking for that guy they can just, like a Shane Combs like they had last year, guy that can just carry the ball and watch him go. They haven't established that, but I think they had a great win over Xavier in overtime, one of those gut check type of wins. I think Cassie's coming along really well in their center. I think, but like I said, Shrewsbury's playing the good last couple weeks. The results aren't there on the scoreboard, but they have to like what they see. I think they know if they win against St. John's, not a lot of people talk about their start.
Right.
This is their win.
This is the emotional game. This is the whole rivalry game. Looking at these power rankings quickly in Division 4. What's standing out, you and I talking about this before the show. Division 4, the top 4 teams, remember, in each division make the playoffs. If the season were to end today, there's still 4 more weeks, but if the season were to end today, St. Peter's, Holy Name on the outside looking in. They would not make the playoffs. It would be Tantascwa, Doherty, Grafton, and Nipmuc. So, I mean, that to me opens some eyes that a team like St. Peter's and even Holy Name that's won 2 straight would not be in on the playoffs.
And like you said, it's early, so a couple wins here and there. You look at the schedule. If they win this game, they pick up 15, 16 points and so on. Right. So a lot of stuff changes. But yeah, right now this is a good benchmark to see where people stand and having that. Remember, only the top 4 teams.
Right.
I look at Division 2, and at the end of the day, no matter what they are now, but you have 4 teams making the playoffs. But just have you have Leominster, Neshoba, Marlborough, St. John's, Wachusett. Those are 5 good teams. And I'm not even talking about the teams like Algonquin, North Middlesex that can make a run.
Right.
And this is somebody going home that in the 5th spot that doesn't deserve it.
Right. Right now, that's Wachusett. Wachusett's on the outside. Algonquin would be actually the 5th spot, and Wachusett would be the 6th spot. When you look at Division 5, too, again, couple teams, Oakmont, Clinton, good teams, pretty good starts, pretty good wins, and they would not make the playoffs right now if the season ended today.
I mean, if Leicester run the table, but yeah, you have those. Oakmont. I'm a little late to the party. They had some good wins the last couple weeks. I think they're starting to put things together. I think they'll be up. But I mean, they're not going to leapfrog Northbridge. And Northbridge is number 2 in these power rankings.
Yeah,
that's the way the math works.
Crazy.
Because Leicester is picking up wins, the bonus point wins from South and Burncoat. So right now, Leicester's number 1, Marlborough's number 2, Tingsboro and Uxbridge are tied for the 3rd spot. Oakmont needs to get some wins fast because those are going to be 2 tough teams that will leapfrog.
Yeah, and Uxbridge is playing with a lot of confidence now. That's the one thing now. Uxbridge coming off a couple big victories, a couple
Find
times
a good quarterback
where they got their offense really cranked up and rolling now. So now you're talking about a team with confidence that probably 1 or 2 more wins, and they've clinched a spot in there, and they've pushed a team like Clinton out. So it's interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Division 6 to kind of break it down, what you see there and who's right now Monty Tech and Air Shirley on the outside. But West Boylston, Mike Ross has got them rolling. They're a playoff team right now.
Yeah, usual suspects like Littleton's in Valley Tech are in right now. St. Bernard's at 4-0. They're having a great season. A lot of people are talking about St. Bernard's. A lot of great wins so far. I like what they're doing up there. They have a great offense, and I think they can make some noise in that division too. Because I don't think across the board there's not one team that's like just a gorilla. I mean, Northbridge in that division, but other than that, there's not one team that they're going to play in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I love that. I love that kind of wide open.
Right.
My picks hate it, but
Right, and the people you pick against hate it. If we were going to go to my ultimate system of taking the top 4 teams in Central Mass, no matter what division, Northbridge would be in there. And I would love it because Northbridge could hang. Maybe they couldn't play Division 2 for an entire season because it might wear them down physically. They could play 2 games in a row against the Leominster, St. John's, Neshoba, Marlborough. I would love to see that. I mean, that's what you want to see as a fan of this sport, and you and I covering these teams and knowing what Northbridge has. They're a Division 5 team. They have Division 2 talent. They don't have the numbers of boys. It's one of the tiniest schools, but they have the talent.
You only need 11.
Play with those,
You only need 11.
They could
That's
play
all you
with
need.
those teams. So I would love to see it, but Wachusett Shepherd Hill, one more game we didn't talk about coming up this week, and that's going to be a good game too. Just 2 physical teams.
A lot of people limping after that game. I think that's going to be just a big, big atomic bomb at the line of scrimmage, and whoever the smoke clears, whoever's left standing, someone's going to run through. It's going to be a great smash mouth game. I love that kind of game.
2 teams desperate for a win.
It'll take about 15 minutes to play.
We'll see how it shakes out. Jim Wilson from the Telegram and Gazette. I'm Kevin Shea. Thanks for watching, everyone. More of the Frenzy Extras coming your way right after this.
Well, back here on the College of the Holy Cross, head coach Tom Gilmore is getting set for a big one with a regional rival in the Brown Bears. Holy Cross coming off a convincing win, a shutout win for the first time in several years here over Albany. The Crusaders are jacked and pumped, you could say, but they're ready for a big test, a hard-fought test this week.
You always want to be undefeated at this point, and we certainly had our chances. But after a real disappointment the week before, I was impressed that our players turned that disappointment into determination and came out, had a great practice week. So I think there's a lot of lessons learned there. As we move along here, hopefully get some of the guys that have been out of the lineup to really bolster our depth. But I think there's been a lot of lessons learned, and I think we'll see continued improvement as some of our younger guys get experience. It was a complete game. I think we were firing on all cylinders in all three phases. We came out with a great kickoff return. We followed that up with a touchdown drive. Defense came out with a 3-and-out. It doesn't get much better than that. We scored 3 of the first 4 times that we had the ball. So we put them in a deficit, and I think that changed their game plan. Our team continued to play well, and I think a lot of, some bounces went our way on top of that. So it turned out to be a rout in a game that we weren't expecting to be a rout. We are regional rivals. There is a history between the schools, even though we're technically not rivals. We don't. There was a long period of time where Holy Cross and Brown were not playing each other, but we have played them most years in the last decade, and it's just been one of those games. Every year it goes down to the last series or two. It's a very closely contested game. A lot of respect and mutual respect between the coaching staffs, and I think we're familiar with each other, so that might lend itself to some really close contests.
It is Brown from the Ivy League taking on Holy Cross. See the game at 1 o'clock live here on Charter TV3, channel 193. Last weekend, I had the honor of emceeing a breakfast for the newest inductees to the Ring of Honor here for the Holy Cross football program. Now 20 names of the all-time greats are here hanging at Fitton Field. And for the current players, it gives them something to look up to see if they can add to the legacy of Holy Cross football.
I think it's great to tie in the long-term history, the tradition of the program in with the current team. I think, really puts things in not only in a positive light, but, really makes the current team feel part of that tradition. And any interaction they have with alumni when they come back to campus and hearing the old stories and just feeling part of something greater than what we currently have, I think is a good thing. There's a great history and a lot of success, and certainly when you're honoring the best of those past players with the Ring of Honor, it just puts some really impressive people in front of the team, and that's never a bad thing.
Well, down the Mass Pike, just about 40 miles or so, Boston College is playing at a high level right now, and 2 local guys, Isaac Yadam and Chris Lindstrom, getting starts for the Eagles in recent weeks. Now, these 2 guys played against each other in high school, and now they support each other at the college level.
It's good. I always talk about the moment we beat them in the Super Bowl, but it's good having him around. He's working really hard, and I see him doing that, so I'm always excited to see him on the field making plays.
I talked to Isaac for recruiting purposes, and then while I was a mid-year, he helped me out with a lot of stuff, and in the locker room we'll joke and stuff about the games that we played against each other, and he's been really great in the transitioning.
To the Dean's List now, and guys performing well at the next level. Ray Sarkoti, former St. Peter Marian standout at Assumption now. 8 tackles, 2 sacks in a win over St. A's. Shane Padini out of Leicester playing close to home at Becker. 16 tackles against Norwich. Mike Stazowitz playing for Western New England University, formerly of Leicester. 8 tackles in a game against Nichols. Harrison Murphy out of Northbridge playing at Assumption, had a touchdown catch in the win over St. A's. Brandon Miller, linebacker out of Wachusett, playing for UMass Dartmouth, 8 tackles against Framingham State. And Lamar Edmonds, the former SPM star, playing at UNH with an interception against Elon. Rounding out College Corner now, you saw Shane Padini out of Leicester playing at Becker close to home, had a monster game on the defensive side. His head coach, Mike Lichten, says nothing new really from Padini. He's the quarterback of the defense and a big-time leader for the Hawks.
Shane's been a beast for us. There's really no other way to put it. He hits, he covers, he blitzes, he plays in the box, he plays deep third. The kid's physical. If I had to sum up Shane in one word, it would be physical. He's played every single play of every single game so far, which is incredible, and he's not the only one. Our secondary last game had 5 guys play every single play. And that's not an easy thing to do in college football, especially when you train and work as hard as those guys do. But Shane's an important piece to that back half of our defense. He's grown incredibly since his freshman year, and I think his best football is still in front of him, but he is a physical player.
Well, that'll do it for another edition of the Frenzy Extra from here at Fitton Field. I'm Andy Lacombe. We'll see you next week, but first we'll see you Friday on the Frenzy.